You obviously long delay in when Alex was supposed to speak. Did you guys meet with Rafi today, or what's going on?
Yeah, so there were conversations. John, Sam, and I flew out earlier today. It was actually John who spoke directly with Rafi, but felt like it was important based on the situation that unfolded yesterday to come out here and have an honest conversation about what we value as an organization, and what we believe is important to the Boston Red Sox, and that being great teammates for each other. And so we think we had a productive conversation. John seems to have had a productive conversation, and that's where things stand right now.
So is he going to play first? Is there movement on that end?
So that is kind of secondary, I think, to the other conversations. That decision was never going to be made on a couch in an office in Kansas City, and that conversation is ongoing.
How do you feel like he left the conversation? Do you feel like it was productive in that regard?
Yeah, as I said, I wasn't specifically in that conversation, but it does seem like it was productive. It was a chance for honest, candid exchange. And I think that the most important thing here is we believe that we've got a really good team that's capable of winning a bunch of games and playing meaningful games down the stretch. That's what we need to remain focused on.
Going back to yesterday, what was your personal reaction to his comments?
I think Rafi was clearly frustrated with the situation. My kind of reaction was, potentially there was some misunderstanding on the communication or an opportunity to more clearly provide communication. And so hopefully that was a step in the right direction here today.
Craig, going back to the offseason, do you regret anything with how this was all handled?
Obviously, it's unfortunate that we're in the situation that we are right now. But as you approached every decision, you try to provide as much clear communication as possible. I think it's my job to always put the priorities of the organization first. But I should also be evaluating every interaction I have with players, and I'll continue to do that.
What does it mean to be a good teammate if being a good teammate was brought up as part of that conversation today?
Yeah, I think it's. I think number one, it's being kind of honest and open with communication. I think it is recognizing when there's an opportunity to step up, when there's a need for the group to be put above any individual achievement or accomplishment. And I think it's important that gets reinforced given what we're hoping to accomplish.
Have you met with him one-on-one the last 24 hours?
I have not. Yeah, I'm sure that we will speak here.
Do you feel like there's any hashing out between the two of you that has to take place after yesterday?
I think that will probably be evident based on the conversation. I am anchored to acting in the best interests of the organization. That's the obligation that I have, and it's not going to change. If there are opportunities for me to communicate more clearly, more frequently, I would want that feedback. I would want to honor it. But in terms of this situation, my sense is we are going to focus on what's most important, and that's winning games.
What about this situation made it such that the club owner, president, and chief baseball officer needed to be here today?
Yeah, I think based on how things very publicly unfolded yesterday, there was an opportunity to address this and like I said, reinforce what we think is important, what has been important to this ownership group, what's important to players, staff, and the front office. And so we were able to do that, and obviously Rafi is a really big and important part of this team, and I think it was important that these things get addressed head on.
Important part of this team now, important part of the future as well?
Yeah.
How receptive was he, the sense you got from John, how receptive was he to these conversations?
Yeah, I think it's probably wise for some of these matters to stay between John and Rafi. But my understanding is it was productive dialogue. There was honest exchange by both sides, and I think we're going to walk out of this in a much better place.
Have you gotten a sense of how in the clubhouse players feel about this as well?
I haven't. I haven't spent much time in the clubhouse today. But my guess is there are going to be different reactions. But as soon as the first pitch is thrown, 26 guys are going to align behind trying to beat the Kansas City Royals tonight.
What makes you guys confident or interested in moving Rafi there? And what makes you confident that he could play the position well?
Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on that. I'm not sure it's kind of the most important takeaway here, but he's a guy with obviously significant experience at a corner infield position, and feel like it would be a transition that others have made and that we think he can make. I recognize it's not that simple. These aren't the types of moves that could be made overnight. And so the initial conversation that Rafi and I had was of kind of a exploratory nature.
Given your experience as a player before, as you've kind of talked about leading you into this role as an executive, how would you describe the way you've kind of handled that balance with the playing side, understanding that, but also, as you mentioned, being anchored to doing what's best for the organization?
Yeah, well, I think that latter commitment needs to be unwavering, and there will be times where I believe acting in the best interest of the organization is probably going to be difficult and uncomfortable, and I have to do it anyway. That said, given my playing experience, I recognize that these aren't easy asks to make. Especially for someone who has undergone pretty significant transitions in roles over the last several months. But a difficult conversation is not a reason to avoid it.